Okay, well, let's just get started on this. Episode 2. Nessa, now's the time. Uh, let me... Oh, man. I already messed up by taking the wrong... No, I took the right thing. I just didn't update the right thing. That's fine. You know what, Nessa? Let me ask you. We're doing Outriders today.
Mm-hmm.
If you died and came back to life, what would your superpower be?
I always know this one. I've got this, but it's a cheat. So you have to be willing to accept that this is the cop-out answer.
Okay.
Okay. I would want unlimited ability to control the quantum possibilities of the universe.
All right, hold on. Say that again?
Okay, so this might be a little more chemistry or physics than some people have had, or going to bring them back to a time in their life they don't want to remember. But essentially, most of what exists around us is empty space.
Right.
And atoms exist with an electron cloud around them,
Yep.
with a cloud of possibilities where the electron can be.
Fair enough.
Where that electron is a quantum possibility
Mhm.
or chance. So if you can control the quantum arrangement of everything around you, you can quite literally do anything.
Right.
You can walk through walls, you can walk on the air and harden it, you can change all kinds of properties and do whatever you can think of, you can do because you control quantum existence.
Wow. Okay. Way more tense. I mean, I will tell you, I study a little bit of like quantum computing and stuff in school, so that makes total sense to me. I don't know if that makes any sense to anyone else, but yeah, that's a lot more intense than mine was. Mine was gonna be like I want the ability to just radiate heat, so I could just toast bread in my hand if I wanted, or something like that. So.
That sounds useful.
Yeah, control the quantum verse, and just everything. Got it. Fair enough. Alrighty. Welcome to episode 2 of Positively Reviewed. I am Jon, and I'm a big fan of all games. Every game, and everywhere, and every place, anytime. I'll pay the money. Make them $100. I'm okay with that. And with me, as always, we got Nessa.
Who
she's,
really plays one game, but does other things occasionally if a friend asks her to.
Yeah, when it comes to this podcast, all of a sudden she has to play more than one game.
Yeah.
So.
It's progress. It's a good thing. I've always wanted to play more games, and it's hard to kind of have that reason. It's easy to just play Dota. And okay, I'm gonna jump in the gun here a little bit, but like honestly, the fact that we're doing Outriders today meant that I played Outriders, and big smile because of that.
She's already got some good clips of her playing the game that very entertaining and very scary all at the same time.
Yeah, but that I guess I can introduce our podcast. If you haven't been here before, welcome to the Positively Reviewed podcast. Pause Reviewed Pod, Twitter and Instagram. Positively Reviewed up on YouTube. And the idea, as you can see below, accuracy beware. We only have good things to say.
Yeah. If you are looking for a podcast that is a nice, fair, balanced review that you think you're like, hey, maybe I'm considering buying this or going to see this or playing this or doing things with this, this might not be the best place for you for 2 reasons. As she said, we only really are going to be talking about the positive stuff, leaving out all the negative, and we're going to get a little bit spoilery. So, spoiler warning, that's yours. We'll try to keep it as minimum as we can, but that's not going to happen.
Yeah, definitely not minimum at all.
Yeah.
But I mean, what's your content? We mentioned it, Joker, but tell the
Outriders.
people about it.
Outriders. We got Outriders today. It is one of the greatest pieces of content that's ever been created for this planet. Until next week. So, it's a game. It's a video game. It's made by the developer People Can Fly, published by Square Enix. The director was Bartos. These names are gonna be a fun one. I think they're all. It's an international developer, so lots of names that I probably very good at pronouncing. Bartos's Kamida, Kamida. The writer is Joshua Rubin, composes Enon Zur. It's built in the Unreal 4 engine, and it is on Windows, PlayStation 4 and 5, Xbox One, Series X, and the Stadia. So, when you're all the people who watch this, as I know, our entire audience is made out of exclusively people who own Stadias. I hope you guys are enjoying Outriders.
Oh goodness. Oh goodness. Fine. It's fine. Okay, well, Joker has done a wonderful thing and even given us a little summary, for what Outriders is beyond all these great credits. So Outriders is a 1 to 3 player co-op third-person RPG shooter set in an original, dark, and desperate sci-fi universe. As mankind bleeds out in the trenches of Enoch, you'll create your own Outrider and embark on a journey across the hostile planet. With rich storytelling spanning a diverse world, you'll leave behind the slums and shanty towns of the first city and traverse forests, mountains, and desert in the pursuit of a mysterious signal. Combining intense gunplay with violent powers and an arsenal of increasingly twisted weaponry and gear sets, Outriders offers countless hours of gameplay from one of the finest shooter developers in the industry, People Can Fly.
I know as an audio podcast, they can't see the video, but we do record this live on Twitch every Tuesday. Did you have a video queued up for that? Why? You make me look like a chump. That's all. That's it.
Joker, John. Sorry, I'm gonna go between John and Joker.
That's
bunch,
okay.
But he's upset that I enjoyed the game so much that I had a video clip.
Yeah.
Ready
she was while she was saying that, she was playing a video clip as well at the same time. Way more work than I'm doing, I'll tell you that much.
He was warned.
So, as we mentioned, this is made by People Can Fly. Do you have any past experience with their games? Do you even know what they've created in general? Do you know the People Can Fly studio?
Well, I have a cheat sheet, but before you gave me the cheat sheet, no, I had absolutely no clue whatsoever. Okay.
So for the people who don't know, People Can Fly, it's a game studio. They've been around for a while. Maybe you'll find out about that in the facts section. Ooh, look at the tease. Now everyone's interested. They're like, wow, I really want to know this. This isn't a thing that I can just look up in 2 seconds. But People Can Fly, they're probably mainly known for 2 games. Gears of War and Bulletstorm are their 2 kind of big franchises that they worked on. They initially, we'll get to some of those things later, but they also worked on Fortnite and Unreal Tournament.
Nobody knows.
So
nobody knows.
Again, those are the kind of the 3. A lot of people don't realize that People Can Fly worked on Fortnite. I think Gears of War, Bulletstorm are the kind of the most well known, and Unreal Tournament, which I'm a fan of. Unreal Tournament was basically the Smash Bros of Epic Games, and just Xbox, PlayStation, one of the 2. They just had all of their anything that was part of the Epic Games family was thrown into a giant shooter game. It was actually pretty okay. That is too bad they didn't make more of. I remember playing that in school a long time ago. So
I feel like Unreal Tournament might have actually been what pulled you into this world, right? Isn't that maybe some of your
it's gotta be
connections for how we know each other?
I guess maybe a little bit.
Oh goodness.
Yeah.
Jon and I met through a mutual friend who used to run Unreal tournaments.
Right. Yeah.
So that's so we have
Had nothing to do with the esports event or the Halo or it's Gears of War and Unreal Tournament. That was the reason why we met.
those are the ones. Oh goodness. So yes, my experience with their previous games is definitely limited, but I have a feeling that the fact sheet or facts are about to give me some meat about this company, right?
Yep, you haven't read the facts yet. They're a great time. Well, I guess before we get to the facts, I do want to say, as we are talking about Outriders today, I think this is the perfect game for us for this podcast. We will get to it a bit later, but this game did receive pretty mixed reviews. I will tell you with this in particular, I was very negative about this game. I was outspoken on Twitter. I was like, wow, this just goes to show how video gamers are just okay with getting very half-baked, broken games and just being like, yeah, it's fine. That's the normal now. We're okay with it. We love it. And I flip-flopped. By the end, the game got a lot better over time. And so that's how it's always positive. As I said, I started out negative, but I became always positive. I actually ended up very much enjoying this game. We'll definitely get to that later, though. So, but this is the perfect. I think this is the perfect game or just media for this podcast because I think it is a very mixed bag. But there's a lot to say that's good, and let's talk about that. So, hit us with the facts.
We hit it right on the second episode. The perfect thing. Okay, yeah. Fact section. The first one. 0 official numbers have been released on the price to make the game or the revenue it has made. So we don't know how much it costs to make Outriders or how much it's made.
There goes our Tokyo children.
No, we don't know how many children we can raise in Tokyo off of the revenue from this game. So that's really just upsetting to start with. But it currently sits in the top 10 selling games of 2021, which doesn't include digital sales or Game Pass downloads. So that's the hard thing.
Very very
you
well.
You used to be able to just pull up Steam, right?
Right.
And just like PUBG, you pulled up Steam and you went out. It sold 30 million copies or 300 million or whatever it was.
Yeah, it was more. I looked up the top 10 selling games of 2021, and the most recent one, or at least the one that was within the first 5 Google searches, was back in March. So that's the one we went with. No idea if that's still in it, but don't go further than the facts. That's it now. Top 10 game. It made it into the top 10 games in March, so it wasn't before. So it was doing pretty good, which is actually really surprising because it is part of Game Pass, right? Mm-hmm. And this is physical sales, so it doesn't include the digital downloads. And I think it'd be really high because for those who don't know, Game Pass is a service that Xbox provides that you pay. It's a subscription service. You pay $15 a month. And you get a giant catalog of like 400 plus games that you can just install whenever you want. You don't have to pay anything for them. And Outriders launched this year, April 1st. I think we will mention that later. But the game was actually launched April 1st of this year. And it was free on Xbox with Game Pass. So kind of free. Again, you are paying the subscription service, so it's not really free. But anyway, the point is, it actually is still selling pretty well, even though it has that. I guarantee it had a lot of downloads, though, for that reason alone.
Well, we're not exactly swimming in games right now.
That's also true, especially new IPs.
That is an aspect of that, but it is very fun. So next fact needs to get its facts straight. You can tell them the next fact.
So there's not a lot of good facts. I'll be honest. Like I said, searching for video game facts is apparently very difficult. So, but we just got a lot of the scores. It has a lot of mixed reviews. I think the everyone goes to the aggregate, which is Metacritic. On PC, it received a 74 out of 100. You're gonna get a lot of numbers and names. Just roll with it and think you understand it. All right. PlayStation 4, you got 72 out of 100. PS5, 74 out of 100. And Xbox is a 73 out of 100. So right around that 70 to 75 range. And then to go further on the publications, Destructoid, never heard of them, 7 out of 10. EGM, 3 out of 5 star. Famitsu, 31 out of 40. Game Revolution, 7.5 out of 10. GameSpot, 8 out of 10. Games Radar, 3.5 out of 5. Hardcore Gamer, 4 out of 5. IGN, 7 out of 10. And Guardian, 4 out of 5. So right around, it's pretty solid across the board of just like a solid 70%. And here's where the city stuff comes in. We're back. Don't worry, I got it for you. I knew you were looking forward to it, Nessa. You were wondering how to raise children in cities. So,
of course.
I found a city. It was ranked. So I got 2 for you. Ranked 7 out of 10. So it was the 7th out of 10 of the best cities to raise your kid in the world. Was Basel, Switzerland. So Switzerland has, I mean, it's 7 out of 10 on a out of 10 for cities. But to be a little more accurate, a city that was given a C rating, a passing grade, based on the schools around the area and its crime rate. So a nice solid 70% for the best places to raise a family in America. Chicago! Woo! Congratulations on living in Chicago.
So our rating system for this episode is either Basel, Switzerland, or Chicago, Illinois.
Yeah. Which my dad actually grew up in Chicago. That's where my dad's from. That's where we still have a lot of family. So I've gone to Chicago a lot. They got Portillo's, so that saves it. Chicago, by the way, on this list was ranked 6,417. So
well, that's almost 7,000 out of 10,000.
Right, exactly.
So we're really
which is honestly a little scary for me, because 6,400. There's a lot of cities in America. There are a lot of cities. And so if we're stepping into the 70% barely passing grade in the 6,000s, we're having a good time in America.
it's fine, but I think Chicago's a great city. I almost went to school there. I used to spend a lot of my summers there. I love now. To be fair, I was outside the city in a very nice suburb of the city, so that was lovely. Didn't actually spend that much time metro area, but I think rating something in Chicago is totally fine. I think that's a positive review.
Perfect. Fact number 3. Last fact. People Can Fly was originally built in 2002. It was 19 years or 18 years ago, depending on the time of year of this year. They start out with a first-person shooter called Painkiller. Never played it, never heard of it. Apparently people liked it, though, I guess. So, enough that they started to work on a new game called Come Midnight. Also never heard of it. And the reason being is the publisher that they were working with had financial problems. So, the project was scrapped, and which was a big bad time for People Can Fly. Yeah, I never even heard of that game, so clearly. But then Epic Games, all of a sudden, the angels that they were, came from the heavens. They saw a demo that they had made for Come Midnight, and they were like, hey, we like you, we like what you do. How about you come join our Epic family? And People Can Fly was, without a publisher and a project that was scrapped, which I'm sure they were very happy about. So they just jumped at the chance. They immediately went to work on Gears of War 1. Gears of War 1 had already been released. So they worked on the PC port specifically for Gears of War 1. Then they kind of worked on Gears of War 2. They weren't... It sounded like they just kind of did a lot of the grunt work for it that no one else really wanted to do. And then they actually did co-develop Gears of War 3, so that's where they became an actual part. They got their name in the credit. Well, they were already in the credits, but they got front page on the opening of the game or something. Then they made Bulletstorm, which is an amazing game, by the way. It's a top tier. It's a positively reviewed, certified positively reviewed.
Mm-hmm.
LLC copyright and patent pending on that. So then they worked, then they after Bulletstorm, which was a top tier 10 out of 10 game, you should definitely go check it out. Then they worked on Fortnite after that was kind of their big thing, and they did a lot. They kind of worked with a lot of multiplayer titles and stuff like that. But they worked on Fortnite before it had its Battle Royale mode. So when they were working on it before it actually blew up and was important, because once again, people don't know, Fortnite was out a year before it actually blew up, because it had this campaign area that I actually played more than the Battle Royale. It was a lot more fun. So you notice how I left out Gears of War Judgment from this list? Fantastic time. They did work on Gears of War Judgment.
Mm-hmm.
And that's all we're going to say about it.
Got it. We're keeping things positive. Well,
now,
there's a side fact of positivity here, right?
Yeah, there's a reason this podcast can't talk about. I actually kind of did. I did like Gears of War Judgment. It was an interesting change of pace. Keyword interesting. Side fact, PCF, no, not the Prevent Cancer Foundation. They have a lot more people in funding. Hopefully. I hope PCF has a lot more people in funding. We'll see. Maybe our game studios have more funding than cancer research. Went from a 40-person studio. Now I'm talking about People Can Fly. Went from a 40-person studio to a 230-person studio for this game. So...
For Outriders.
Yeah, so through the entire time that they've been working with Gears of War and stuff, they were actually a pretty small studio. But they went independent after leaving the Epic family. And that was kind of middle of the way when they were working on Fortnite. They decided they wanted to go independent. And then they started working with Square Enix. And they were given a lot more budget, but a lot more freedom. And so they hired just like 200 people, which is, they went from a small studio to a really big AAA studio really fast. So I thought that was actually pretty impressive.
I think that's very cool. Although I am curious how many of those people are like $8 an hour QAs, right? I want to know the ratios there, because sometimes those people they don't actually count them because they're like contracted out to QA.
A lot of those companies, I worked in some QA testing and stuff, and it's all contract work. It's their way of bypassing any, actually paying for benefits or taking care of those employees in any way, shape, or form. So it's good.
Oh goodness, but 40 to 230, pretty impressive. That is, great for People Can Fly, and like you said, game is selling well. Game is very fun to play, and I think that one of the things I saw a lot, and I know we're going to get to this, but there was discussion around endgame content and the other things you can do with the game outside of the story. And the beautiful thing for People Can Fly are DLCs. They can keep those 230 people employed moving forward.
On that note, that's actually an interesting note. I didn't even think about adding this, but I do know that they don't really plan on adding stuff. I'll tell you, when they release the game, this is one of those rare occasions. So a lot of games have gone to the live service model, Fortnite, a lot of things where they're just constantly adding they're constantly adding content to a single game, and they're just keeping that one game for more years than normal. Outriders, they don't plan on doing live service, so they're not constantly updating it, for one. But two, when they released, they didn't really have any DLC planned. So, I'm not saying that they might not add anything more, but as far as I know right now, unless it's changed in the last month here, They don't actually plan on adding anything to the game. We'll see. So they left the game pretty open to make another game. So maybe they're just gonna go straight to another game. So
that's true. That's like a bigger DLC.
Right.
It's like 2 DLCs, but in one game.
Yeah, it's a DLC that you have to go play somewhere else.
I mean, if you look at other games that have had well received DLCs, like Witcher 3, the 2 of them together constitute the price of a AAA game and are another 50 to 60 hours of content. So it could have been The Witcher 4 if they had wanted it to. It kind of comes down to how they want to do the language and like the engine they want to build it in.
Right.
Because DLC, you go in the same engine, but a sequel you can upgrade.
Yeah, you tend to upgrade a lot of the base engine back end stuff that you don't need to waste the time doing if you're gonna add DLC. So it's one of the reasons a lot of games do the live service, is they just keep building on the same backbone for years and years and years, and they don't have to worry about doing the not so fun stuff. So, well, this is a good. I don't know how long we've been recording. The one thing I wanted to remember was the timer, so I actually knew how long we were going for, but I lost track. It's okay. But this is a good game. We'll probably actually be able to talk about the game a lot more in this, so I think we'll hop right into it. The story of the game, just to give you a little premise, started out, you heard the beginning, you know, it's a third-person shooter RPG. What happens is you play as an outrider who are kind of scouts in this universe, where they're tasked,
like first landers.
Right, yeah, their first contact, first scouts, where they land on this planet. So Earth blew up. It didn't blow up, but it died. A lot of people. That's a good point. Yes, they don't actually know what happened to Earth, but
it just went dark 15 years into their journy. So yeah. I have hopes for a sequel that goes back to that.
Right. So they actually left they boarded up 2 giant ships. They left Earth. One of them did one of them blow up? There was a caravel. There's a ship called the Caravel. It exploded. It's a big part of the game. I couldn't follow if it was actually part of the 2 ships that left initially. But they boarded these ships and they left Earth in search of new planets. And they came onto this planet called Enoch, where the Outriders landed. They need to make sure before everybody landed, they were the scouting parties to make sure the planet was habitable, make sure nothing was too crazy, and they could live on it. So help kind of set the landing pad for the ship. It was an 83-year journey, and when they landed on the planet, everything seemed fine initially, and then all of a sudden, this storm that they call the anomaly started happening, and it started either just ripping people apart, and it just tore through everybody. And even though this was happening and they could no longer land on the planet, one of the people decided, nope, we don't care. This is our only hope. We can't make it to another planet. They called down the ship, and your outrider tried to stop them. And you end up getting wounded. You go into cryo for a bunch of years. It's like 30, 35 years, I think.
I think it's 31.
31.
Is how long you're in cryo.
So yeah, you get thrown into cryo to try and live. And you wake up 31 years later and are immediately come out to just a war zone. Everyone is just killing everybody and lots of just war.
So you come out to a war zone in like the enemy's camp. You don't know what's going on. You don't know why there's an enemy, because it's people. It's not like random alien creatures. And I thought this game was not going to be for me. I thought I was really going to struggle, because you're on the back of this truck, you're handcuffed, and there are bodies hanging everywhere. Like you're driving through this tunnel thing, and there's just bodies, and they're not dead. It's not like they hung people and they're dead. Like, you can hear them moaning and like crying. It's so disturbing. And I was just like, oh, this is not the game for me. I am not handling this well. It fixed that quickly. It quickly fixed that aversion. But it's this kind of alarming scene when you come out of cryo, which, if you're thinking about it, that's probably how your outrider feels. And so that level of immersion and like disgust and horror and astonishment is probably a really good crossover with what your character's doing. And I didn't even think about that until now. That's cool.
Oh, your character made it very clear. There's a lot of swearing happening. Like, what is happening? What did I just wake up to? So, yeah, you're captured immediately as you walk out by somebody, and you're captured with someone else. He immediately gets killed off. And then you get dumped supposedly into they talk about how all these storms are coming or something. You really don't know what's going on. And you're just left out for dead. And you're just left out in no man's land. And this storm comes through. The anomaly comes back. It turns out that these are kind of rolling storms that are constantly happening. And if you're out and about when they happen, they just vaporize you. So these happen. But instead, your outrider, your character, ends up getting a giant rebar through the heart and dies. But then gets brought back to life. It turns out that 31 years ago, you tried to save someone from this storm from being vaporized, but it actually also infected you. And everyone thought the storm just vaporized anyone, but 1% of the population got superpowers, pretty much. Yeah. And you were one of those characters. And that's the character you play as. And you could choose, you have this really in-depth character creation where you can play a male outrider, female outrider. When I say in-depth, they've got options. They've got some options. So, but they toted that.
So I was okay with that. I got these cool like braids.
Oh, cool.
And yeah, some the makeups, specifically makeups with an S. That was the first clue. Options were a little odd because I was like, why would I choose to do my makeup with like a weird smudgy mask thing? But eventually there was an option that had like a pink Queen Amadela. I can't say that. I said that wrong. Whatever.
Close enough. I can never say it. I haven't been able to since I was a kid either. So
yeah, it's fine. There were character customization options. They were cool. They were aggressive. No matter what you built, you created someone that looked aggressive.
I was attracted to Natalie Portman as a kid. And on that note, yeah, you had some options. We have a bunch of the voice actors for the people who played in this. I'll be honest, you won't recognize any of the names, because I sure don't. I will say Jakob, who's the driver. So after the story kind of goes that after you survive this, you meet up with someone who is still alive, who is part of the landing party, or two of the people who are still alive. Everyone else has kind of gone out and died, supposedly. And she sends you off. Now she's like a war chieftain, pretty much. She was just a wee little scientist, and now she's a war chieftain, pretty much. And
that's right. She full transforms from...
Right.
It's just a probe. Just get me the probe data. Cheers me, da 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 da.
Just taking photos of you and stuff. Yeah, taking selfies.
Oh my gosh, they did not only do they take a selfie, they do the little like thing and everything. Yeah. And you're just like, these are military hardened. This just happened. Yeah. And I will say, I did start singing the "Let me take a selfie" like the Chainsmokers thing at that moment, and chat was really unhappy with me. So I want all the podcast listeners to have that same experience of getting that song stuck in their head.
Yeah, it was their way of trying to show that things were still modern and they had technology. But as something we didn't mention, the storms, those anomaly storms, fried all technology. Anything that came in contact with the storm or anything that was on the planet long enough basically got EMP'd and were completely useless. So they had no more technology. They were just living with what they had, the resources they had from when they left Earth. So, and that was on the ground, which is a big part of the game. That's what the story kind of ends up becoming, is really you're trying to get to, there's a signal coming from somewhere out in the wilderness, and you think if it's powerful enough to reach you through all the storm and everything, it will be able to contact your ship, because half the supplies that you left Earth with are just chilling up on the ship still. So you want to find this signal source to hopefully use it to bring down all these resources that will help you live for another 30 years, I guess. Which, by the way, I don't understand when societies are like, oh yeah, we've been fighting for 30 years. When it's these kind of situations, they come to a planet that they've never been on. So there's already not humans there to repopulate. So we're not talking like, and everyone is part of the war. There's not areas, supposedly, that are safe from this war. So they've just been fighting straight for 30 years, and there's still enough people to fight this war?
Yeah. They were really big ships. There's a lot of people.
Yeah, I mean, these were supposedly ships that fit multiple entire cities in them. Like, you could potentially fit entire countries into this ship. So,
maybe
I guess
they like slow thawed, right? So they have a cryo rotation of pulling people out of cryo, right? So you're like, okay, we got a few thousand people, we'll duke each other, and and they each have some cryo banks to pull from. Maybe that's really what's going on behind the scene, is you just unfreeze more people.
I think they did talk about that. I think they either already let everyone go, or everyone had died in cryo. They just turned off all the life support.
Well, so what they said happened was, because everything got fried and they had to land, there was early on this dialogue interchange where it was something along the lines of, we didn't have a choice. We could have just let you die in cryo.
Yes, that's right.
And so that was the option. But I want to go back. The other thing about the signal, so supplies will live 30 more years, they're just going to keep killing each other. What's the point? But if a signal exists and the anomaly thrives all signals, that means there's a place outside of the anomaly's reach.
Yeah. So no one can get out of this war-torn area because the anomaly storms won't let them. But if there is a section that is untouched by the storm, maybe they'll be okay. So
here's another question, though. So if 1% of the people become altered, get supercharged by this storm.
Oh yeah, that's the name of the superpowered people, Altered. I didn't mention that, but yeah. I just said
if you send like 10 million people and you end up with hundreds of thousands, or is that 100,000? I don't know.
No.
Right now.
Well,
1%? That's 100,000.
Right.
Now 100,000 people can repopulate. Right? Like, why not just throw everyone out into the storm, survival of the fittest, and then you end up with a new superhuman race? That'd be my solution. I think the numbers work out there.
I think we've seen in history enough comic books, and specifically Marvel recently, that people tend to not to like the concept of, let's just eliminate a large portion of the population and the weak die and the strong live.
How the game goes, humanity is going to keep going, right? Because based on the numbers, even if everyone falls to the storm, enough people aren't going to fall, and you're good. So, like, the problem's going to work itself out either way. Like, you're either going to find a way to live outside the storm, or the storm's just going to eat everybody, except for the ones who can survive it.
Yes, still.
Humanity has a chance here, all right? That's just what I'm saying.
Thanos was like, let's kill 50% of the population. You're like, let's just kill 99% of the population.
I'm not saying kill. I'm just saying that you were posing that why are people fighting so much, right? If this is the future of humanity, that they have to.
Oh no, I know why they're fighting.
protect.
They're fighting over for survival, which is the whole thing. They're trying to live, and so they're fighting for the little amount of resources they have. I'm just amazed that they've lived for 30 years and not everyone is just dead.
Well, that's what I'm saying is that there is a percentage of people that are gonna be fine. So no matter what the fighting people decide, those people are fine. And we'll see, but this is probably gonna be too morbid, but if you are in this, if you get pulled out of cryo into this depressing post-apocalyptic state, are you just gonna like see if you're one of the lucky ones? Is there someone stopping people from doing that?
No, I mean, I think that was is a lot of people did try and run out into the storm thinking that they were part of the chosen few. Didn't work out, and I guess that's the whole existential question of why do people try to live in the face of just sheer inevitable death to happen. It's every zombie movie in the world too. It's like, yo, everybody be zombies. Let's just turn me into a zombie too. Like, I'm done. Why? You're saying the same thing. We'll just all become zombies and we're fine after that.
I'm choosing the ability to like shockwave the ground and absolutely obliterate people and still be normal other than that versus
immortality.
Disagree with.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, you're now basically invincible. That is what she's saying is for the game side of things, you do get to play as 4 different classes, each with kind of different powers. Some of them get all these like spectral kind of blades and can teleport. Some are just they punch really hard and can create shockwaves on the ground. Yeah, and they got some interesting and that's, I guess we can get to kind of the gameplay a little bit. No, actually I lie. I want us to talk about the story. Forget that. This game, this world, everything, it's interesting. We were talking about Yakov. I mentioned Yakov. He's got the most Russian name out of all of these people, so that's why I picked him. He's a good character. He's kind of your best friend, I guess. He was your boss, I guess. Maybe beforehand. I can't remember exactly what he drives this truck. He pretty much drives the truck that brings you from place to place. His name's the voice actor is Dmitry Chepovetsky. So that was, but all the names are like that, by the way. And I know you're not that far into the game. Once you get about halfway in the game, you get a lot of people added to your party. You go from, wow, there's only a few of us, to it just adds a bunch of people into your party that you bring along for this one-way ticket mission that you're not sure is even going to happen. You get Yakov, who, as I said, was the driver. Zahidi, who's a scientist. He does join you from the start. He was one of the people who woke you up from cryo, but he's a scientist. He's one of the last few remaining scientists in the world. And gameplay-wise, he's the one who allows you to modify your weapons and make them better. Things like that. Then they get Shauna. You get a character named Shauna, which is actually Yakov's. This is where the spoilers come in. Warning! It's kind of Yakov's adopted daughter. So to give the small background is the ship that exploded, the Caravel is what it was called. Yakov was actually on this ship when it exploded. And they were going to the escape pods, and he ended up saving a woman who was pregnant at the time. And she ended up being pregnant with Shauna. And so they ended up he got her onto the next ship, the Flores, which is the one that's floating in space with all the supplies. Ends up getting himself and her onto this new ship, and then they go to Enoch. And when they land, at this point, she's now had a kid, and but she ends up kind of getting killed off. So Jakob has kind of adopted Shauna as his daughter, unofficially. So, but she's also a driver, and I'll leave it at that. And you get Bailey, who she's an antagonist in this in a way. She works for kind of a scummy dude. She's kind of the right-hand woman, but she ends up getting joined up with this because she thinks there'll be a lot of riches on this. She just sells you weapons throughout it. And then the next kind of, the last kind of big guy that you get part of it is Tiago, who was a prisoner in a camp that you find later in the game. And you end up adding him to the party because he takes you to a place. Turns out he's in jail because he was trying to give the truth that the people living in the forest, there's a forest area, they were doing some pretty messed up stuff along the lines of killing people and using their bodies to create antidotes to prevent the storm from killing these people. So
interesting. So
you haven't got there yet.
No, I'm so intrigued.
So
by
that's
this.
I'll leave it at that to avoid it.
Save you from the anomaly somehow. What do? Like carry their heart above your head and just go zap this, zap this?
Yeah, if only that was as nice as that was. I'll be honest, that would probably be better than what was actually happening. So I'll leave it at that. But he ends up being part of the late game. After you beat the game, you're sent out on expeditions to get extra supplies and stuff like that, and he's the one who's in charge of that. So, but you also have part of someone who's part of your party is named is August, and she's a native of this planet. So it turns out there were other natives. That becomes a big thing. They are called the Pax at one point, and they're a species that actually have all the powers that the Altered do. So they have a lot of these powers to almost control the storm. And it, as I said, the story of this game started out in a way only positive, but it ended up getting really good. Once they added all of the characters into the game, it became a much better game and became actually intriguing and interesting, and there was a lot of moving parts that I wasn't expecting this story to go to. So yeah.
So the world and the concepts and everything feel so much like Avatar to me, because when you load in to Enoch and you're looking at the beasts running around, and you're in a video game, and even though everybody is like cheery and let's just go check out the probes and everything, they're taking selfies, you obviously know something is going to go wrong. Now, I thought that the environment was going to be really hostile in some way, which it was, but I wasn't. I went into this game knowing absolutely nothing. And so when the beasts are running by and you're in that cutscene and there's like the black goop and everything, I'm like, oh, this is going to be just like Pandora, where they landed there and they thought they were going to mine these resources and set up these camps. It was going to be fine. But it turns out that like everything on the planet is trying to kill them, even though it's beautiful and it looks like it should be nice. Everything's trying to kill them. And that was a sense that I got. But then they just added super voodoo storms on top of all of that.
I didn't think about that at all. But now that you mention it, and I finished this game, so I've played through the entire game. Nessa has kind of just started and is playing through it. There's a lot more correlation between Avatar and this game than I realized. Now that you mention it, I'm like, wow, hold on. Yeah, actually, there is a lot that happens throughout this game that is very similar to the Avatar storyline. I don't know, that's pretty, I guess that's spoilery. It goes off, though, so it kind of goes off the rails, and you start learning a lot of stuff about potentially the Caravel explosion and what happened to that and other things. So
when you said there were natives and they could kind of control the storms and what happened, I was like, wow, that sounds even more like Pandora and Avatar.
I didn't think about that at all. Hey, we're supposed to get new ones of those. We got they're filming Avatar 2, 3, and 4 already. I love that. I love the concept of that series. I won't talk about it here, but James Cameron's original concept of it was he would only release one every 10 years. And I thought that was really cool because he wanted to use Avatar as a medium to showcase all the new technology in the last decade, which I thought was a super cool idea. But the studio was like, no, that's not going to... 10 years to make? No, absolutely not. And also, you're going to be dead by the end of this. So...
Oh goodness. Yeah. No, I mean I look forward to that podcast when Avatar.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I mean, we probably will. So. Well, this is Outriders new game. I mean, you can definitely see a lot of the influence of Gears of War in this. Obviously, it is a cover-based shooter. I'll be real. As you play the game and you become stronger, you unlock new abilities and stuff like that. So the game is an RPG. You level up, you get skill points, you use those skill points to kind of build out a tree of the abilities you want to use and how you want to play the game. And I will say that is the best thing about this game in general. Like, they nailed the loot system. It's got a loot system similar to something like Borderlands, where when you kill enemies, every enemy you kill has a chance to randomly drop a weapon. It may be a better rarity or stronger, higher level, things like that. And People Can Fly nailed that part of the game. The class system is amazing. They did a really good job where they have all these... You can go online and just look up, like, Outrider builds. And they have so many out there that you can play the game in very different ways depending on the characters you choose. Out of the 4 classes and how you want to play. If you want to be up close and personal, you could do that. If you want to be long range, sitting back, you could do that. Nessa likes up close and personal. I know she likes just punching people.
If you hate dodging, if you have no patience, if you just want to run at people, there's this class called Devastator. And I picked it because I have no patience. I have very poor mechanics. I leave my DPI way too high to be any kind of good at a shooter, and I refuse to change it. I absolutely refuse. So I picked this Devastator class, and what happened was I didn't know. So it was a couple fights into the game, and I've been shooting everybody, and it teaches me. I'm gonna play the clip again. There's no sound, but you can like see the joy in my eyes, because it says press F to activate melee, and now I kind of want to start a new build to see if I can use the melee attack before it tells me that I can. And this has been, I'm not kidding, it was probably the most satisfying, like legitimately the most satisfying interaction in a video game I have ever had. Like, I lost it. I started giggling maniacally. Like, my eyes were wide. Like, I forgot I was screaming. I lost it.
For the people who are listening to this and not watching this, we'll post this clip on our social media. So Twitter and Instagram will have this clip up. I would definitely listen to it and watch it with sound on. It's pretty top tier because she has a very maniacal, scary laugh that happens, and her eyes get very wide, and she scares me. So we'll post that there. So that's why you should go follow. We'll post whenever we mention clips or anything. We will post supplemental stuff on those places. So I definitely go check those out.
Yeah, but big positive review for the Devastator.
Yeah,
but it made me want to actually play other classes. Like, sometimes a game with story to it, you really just are gonna play through once, and there's not that much more to it. But seeing how gratifying it was to play just a little bit as this one class, I imagine that if you play through the game as all 4 classes, I think there's a legitimate case for 4 playthroughs easily, just because you want to play the different styles.
Yeah, each class changes up pretty differently. The biggest thing, one of the biggest differences between each class is how they heal. So, in a video game, obviously you're losing health constantly. This game in general doesn't heal you normally, like a lot of games is you exit combat, you just don't get shot for a while and you'll heal up. That's not how this one works. Each class heals in a specific way. Like the 4 classes, the Technomancer, every time you deal damage, you get health back. The Devastator, meleeing or being close to enemies will heal them. The Trickster, which is the spectral blades kind of teleportation. Anyone, once again, it's closer to the Devastator where you have to be close by enemies and it's just using but you can use anything to kind of do it, whereas the Devastator is more based on melee damage. And then the last one, which is a Pyromancer, you light people on fire. Anyone any character that's killed who's on fire, you'll get health for that too. So each class heals in a very unique way that completely changes how you're supposed to play each class. And they actually, as I said, their class system, the all of it, top tier. They really nailed it. They made it very fun. They made it a lot of very unique ways to play the game that they did a good job with it, honestly. I will say Outriders ended up filling a void that I didn't realize. I kind of knew I was missing. So Borderlands 3, I mentioned Borderlands earlier. The loot system is very similar to Borderlands. So Borderlands 3 came out a year or two back, and this filled that void that I was missing from Borderlands 3, where Borderlands 2 was an amazing game. It had a lot of awesome experience, and specifically, Borderlands 2 is one of the greatest looter shooters of all time. And so Outriders is also a looter shooter. Again, you can shoot things and you loot things, right? So Borderlands 2 is one of the greatest looter shooters of all time. And Borderlands 3 was kind of just missing that. They made it almost too easy to get really powerful loot, and they didn't have like specific drops anywhere, or you had to do specific things to get. Like, they made it a lot easier to get the loot in the game, which was fine. It's not a bad thing necessarily, but it lessened the replayability. And honestly, a big part for me was I loved sitting for hours killing like the same boss over and over again in Borderlands 2 to get the one drop that I wanted. And even if I got the drop, I needed it to be the correct drop. You needed a pistol with certain stats on it. And Borderlands 3 made that too easy, so you didn't have to do that as much, which was fine. It's not a bad thing. You just didn't play it as much. It didn't have as much replayability. Outriders has that replayability that I was missing from Borderlands 3. And it's one of the reasons I think I ended up enjoying it as much, especially the later endgame stuff, is it really did just come down to you're just grinding and trying to get better drops, and not only better drops, the exact drop you want. And they have a lot of stuff that you can manipulate. The game has an awesome weapon modding and crafting system, so you can create weapons exactly how you want them. You can modify things on certain stats and stuff. And they did a great job with it. So they did a really awesome job that added a lot of layers where it's like if you're looking for a specific gun, you could go to that layer. But if you want a specific gun with certain stats, you have that layer. Or really you went from a certain gun, then you wanted a particular gun with certain mods on it. At least you wanted one because you could just craft the second one to whatever you wanted. Then you wanted ones that had certain stats like better critical damage or just more damage in general or long range or something. And then from there, you also could modify it even further where you want one that had good stats for all that. So you could go to this insane thing where it could take you a really long time to get the exact perfect thing you were looking for, which I think there's a lot of merit in that for people like me who like to sit there and just do that for hours on end trying to get exactly what you're looking for. So
my question here is, the characters are great. You can replay. The loot's not too easy. You have a lot of modifications in crafting. And the fact that combat is built around how you heal, which is sort of this refreshing mechanic. The creating of this game, right? So the vision and the direction from the creator. this does feel like a really good creative director, like a really good understanding of what they wanted the game to do. Because I think some games
Yes.
suffer from not knowing.
Yeah. They wanted to just kill people left and right. That was the whole vision of the game. If you play this game, you'll know. They do a thing that it's a very common thing in game development when game developers don't want to flesh out a character or don't want to animate a character or don't want to do anything. They do a lot of like, hey, look at this new character. Oh, he's dead. The new character you just met, he's dead now. They did a lot of that in this game. No, I totally agree. I actually really like this. Is a brand new IP, so this is original work. We haven't first in a series, hopefully. And they ended up doing it pretty well. I was worried one of the things that I was worried about at the start is, the game toted that you went through all these different landscapes. You went to like snowy mountains and volcanoes, and you do all of that within the first like 30 minutes of playing the game. You visit a mountain and a volcano at the same time, and you're like, oh, I am blowing through this game. This is not going to be a long game, right? I was totally wrong in that matter. Like they had swamps and forests and deserty swamps and more deserts, and they just did every version of landscape you can. And you could tell that the creative director and just the vision for it is they really wanted you to feel like you were exploring a world. I mean, that's what the Outriders are, is they're, end of the day, they're explorers trying to go and conquer, I guess, other areas and help lead the charge in furthering civilization. So, yeah, I mean, I totally agree. I think the vision and stuff for this game was fantastic. I think they did a great job creating Earth without it being Earth. It really did feel like you were on another planet. So, but at the same time, a planet that wasn't just forest or wasn't just a war-torn no man's land. They did a really good job.
The no man's land was, I don't need more visits.
Yeah. Wait till you get to the forest.
I watched some other clips of gameplay. I haven't gotten to that part yet, but of like people running around on these plains, and it's beautiful.
Yeah.
And I saw the gritty kind of like city setup type fighting, the underground base, all that. And then there's these beautiful like plains and woodlands, and I'm excited to explore. And now again, John's got the notes for me, so I've got my cheat sheet. But did you actually find any of the Easter eggs, or did you have?
Yes, there's a lot. There's some Dragon Age Easter eggs with some just characters' name. There's a character named Alistair Cullen, which is 2 characters in Dragon Age. There's a whole quest line. There's a big quest line where you actually have to keep coming back to it. So you basically find an Outrider bunker where supposedly an Outrider was hiding out in, but he's not there, and so you're trying to find out what happened to this Outrider, and you kind of come back and forth. You meet the Outrider's son, and then you go back, and then you come back, and you learn more about the story, and then it turns into a giant Doctor Strangelove. Like, literally the character you end up fighting, what was the... It was... I can't remember the name, but... So, Doctor Strangelove is a book. The book is actually called How I Learned to Stop Worrying and Love the Bomb, but it's more commonly known as Doctor Strangelove, which has to do with nuclear armaments and stuff like that. And so, yeah, you end up accidentally activating a nuclear bomb, and you have to work at shutting it off, and you have to kill a guy, and I think his name, I think it's literally like Doctor Strangelove, I think, is straight up the character's name or something like that. I can't remember exactly, but yeah, they had a few. They had a Bulletstorm Easter egg thrown in there, so there's quite a few like fun Easter eggs and secrets to find. This game really it does a good job of making you want to explore at the same time. I mean, part of that is the loot, is you never know where there's going to be a chest around a corner, or areas that you can go check out. So there's a lot of notes and lore that they have created, that they have all this background of, you find a tattered backpack, and you can actually pick it up and learn some things about it. And they have a lot of side quests and stuff oriented around finding stuff from Earth. You find like a soda and soda can and things like that. So,
ooh, the luxury! Give me my
yeah.
Fonto. I'm 83 years away on Lightning Planet.
Yeah. So, but they had fun with this game, and I think they could have definitely had more fun with the game as well. That I think they will do in a sequel. I think we will definitely get a sequel. So.
Yeah, you're locked in on that.
Yeah, I think it's one, it's selling pretty well. Top 10, right? And that's just not including all the digital, which it probably did amazing digitally. And even though it got mixed reviews, I think the studio realizes that they're in an IP that has a lot of potential, and I think they can take it a lot farther. So,
I mean, they created this world that felt, I don't know. I mean, obviously I'm not all the way through it yet, but I kind of like that, because I feel like it lets me give this sort of fresh take on how the game starts, which is important, because the first few hours you play a game, if it doesn't hook you, I mean, if you're on Steam, you're going to return it. So I think those first few hours are important. But
you can return games on Steam?
If you play less than 2 hours and it's within 2 weeks of buying it, you can return a game on Steam.
Wow, I didn't know that.
Yeah, there's info for people. There was actually a short game that came out that took less than 2 hours to play, and so people were playing it and then returning it, and I felt so bad for the developer, because people loved the game.
Yeah,
they were still returning it because they're awful people.
Don't do that. Hey, give game to. Do you think people make this for free? I know you want it for free. Everyone complains about I'm going to go off on a tangent. Oh man, everyone complains about microtransactions and stuff like that. But then you ask them, you're like, oh, okay, well then what do you like? Are you okay with the game? They're like, oh yeah, I want the game to be free to play, but I don't want to have microtransactions. I'm like, at what point do you pay the developer for working on this? You understand that, right? If they make no money, they can't make another game, or they can't make the game. What do you want? I get it. You want everything for free, but come on.
Oh my goodness. Oh, beautiful rant. Beautiful rant. I love it. That's why I hope there'll be a second one. Because this game, like I said, it felt like Pandora. It felt like it was in Avatar. That part felt familiar. But
You'll like the ruin when you get to like ancient ruins and stuff. You like it. They got some gorgeous. It is, like she said, it's got some gorgeous scenery. The skyboxes and just like they got a lot of details even off in the far distance that you could just see, and it's gorgeous. So
it's beautiful, and it felt. And the thing is I love that movie, and I'm excited to see more of it. But it didn't feel like it was a direct ripoff, right? I know I'm saying that. I know I keep bringing it up, but it's just because that movie is beautiful and it is immersive. And the game was beautiful in the parts that are meant to be beautiful. Parts that are not.
All the hanging bodies and people getting their heads blown off. And it's really pretty. Right. I love it. I thought it was gorgeous.
But it intrigued me.
Yeah.
Right? I want to know more. This story is fascinating. And I kept sitting there. I was sitting there playing it, watching these cinematics. And I was going, it'd be really nice if this was a movie so that I didn't have to try to learn more about what's going on, right? Like I wanted it to be like prettily packaged for me so I could sit there, like, sit on my hands and not do anything. And I was having this whole battle in my head the whole time I was playing. I wish this was a movie, so that I could just see what was going to happen, because I'm so intrigued. I want to be able to just like speed through this. But on the other hand, I was going, I'm so glad it's a game, because if they expect you to play 10 or 20 or 30 hours to get through the story, look at how much more story
Oh
they
yeah.
can give you and the experience you get. And so I was like, movie, game, movie, and I still can't decide.
Well, as I
love
said, just you watch Avatar and you get the gist of it. So
Okay, I'll watch Avatar and keep playing the game, and I'll get both. So is this a Chicago, or is it, what was our other city? Basel. Is it Basel or Chicago?
it's a Basel, Switzerland. It's a 7 out of 10. You know, overall, Outriders was great. As I said, I think if you combine everything in that game, it's a great time. It's a fun time. I'd highly check it out. Again, if you have an Xbox and you get Game Pass, it's cheaper than paying the $60, and you get just install it and try it out for. It's a long game. I think that was one of my biggest things with it. It's way longer than I thought. It's a solid 12-hour campaign, and that was even me. Well, I was doing all the side missions and everything like that, but you got like, I got an easy 18 hours out of it within the first few weeks of playing it, because the main story and everything is 12 hours, but then they have a bunch of end game content, which is a lot of the grinding part of it, and
12 hours for the speedrunner.
that's true.
40 hours, most likely, for the woman who takes forever to move through any part of game and does
Yeah, and you're also playing Devastator, so that will add to your time.
Well, someone's gonna have to co-op carry me then. That's
Yeah, they do have co-op. That is, I guess we didn't mention, it does have crossplay. It's one of the games that had crossplay on launch. It might not have worked exactly on launch. It works now. That's the good thing, is it works now. So, but you can play with anyone. If you get it on Xbox, you can play with someone on PC or PlayStation or anything. So,
I think the reason for a lot of the lukewarm reviews at launch was because for the first week or so, their servers were not quite up to the crossplay and everything.
Yes.
But let's be honest, literally no game servers are up to launch week.
Yeah.
The cost of having that much server capacity for the first 3 days is not worth the gain you get. So a lot of companies kind of just take
I don't know of a game launch that has launched with good servers yet.
Yeah.
People are always waiting in some queue or something, so yeah.
Wait, I'm really excited about my rating.
Okay.
I'm so excited because so John's getting it at Basel, Switzerland. Well, do you know what the cost to raise a child in Basel, Switzerland is?
It's 365,000.
So the cost to raise a child is 194,400 francs, converted to United States dollars, going off because our Tokyo number was about 570,000. New York City was 540. So in Basel, Switzerland, it is about $215,000. So
did you say
my rate
is the currency in Switzerland called francs?
When I Googled it, it said that it was a franc. Yes, it's FRANC. Did you never read Heidi?
No. Francs? What?
Yeah.
Why would you name a currency francs? I don't. Yeah, continue. I'll sit with that one for a little while. My brain's got to process that. I don't. Okay.
Well, so should I rate in francs or US dollars?
A US dollar. I don't want to talk about Frank, okay? I don't like the guy. I'm not a fan of him.
Got it. So we're never taking John to Switzerland. But yeah, that's my rating. So cost to raise a child in Basel, Switzerland, $215,100 and 10 cents. That's the rating. Outriders.
That's a rating. Out of... Doesn't matter. That's the rating. That's what you got.
I think the lower cost it is to raise a child, the higher the rating it is. So Outriders has beaten.
That's a huge gap. We're talking Mortal Kombat got a 300 and something odd thousand versus 500,000 versus, that's a big, you know what? That's fine. I'm okay with that. Overall, yeah, as we were saying, Outriders, it's greatest game of ever. So done it. But Nessa, I guess the last question I got to ask you is now that I know you're not done with the game yet, but what what else are you looking forward to in this game now that you're still playing through it?
One of the biggest questions I have, because I've only had one serious fight against an altered, is I actually want to see how those fights work without your like little killing people for health. That's like my biggest thing in my head is how do you get through the big fights with the way that the healing system has been created. So that's like my mechanical, and I know I picked a Devastator, and this is why I'm gonna have a miserable time
I'm
at the
just
end
saying,
game.
yeah, if you're a Technomancer, you don't have to worry. You just shoot the boss and you're fine. You get your health back.
Yeah, I'm assuming that will be my challenge later on. That's fine. I want to know what happened to Earth because I don't trust that it went dark, and I expect Outriders 3 or 4 to have another ship arrive. And then you have some kind of like super powered, like teched up, mech wearing Earth people that have benefited from another few hundred years of development.
Play the game.
Out there fighting.
Play
the game.
Play the game.
What?
Play the game.
Oh my goodness! I want to know what happens there.
I'm not saying anything, but yeah. I mean, no. I mean, your prediction is not wrong. I mean, I would be totally down. I'd say in sequel, I want to see our Outrider expand more. I mean, again, let's stick with the thing with the Outrider. They just go even further than where they ended in this. And yeah, maybe we'll find out even more about the natives, or maybe we'll find more of the natives of the planet and see what's going on, and maybe the other side of the planet. I mean, we've only ventured on a single part of the planet. It's a big planet. It's not a small planet. So.
And if you're just running around, you really can't explore that much of it.
I would love an ocean environment. They did such a good job with the like a beach and ocean kind of land, because I think that's one of the few that they didn't have. One of the few, like, I guess, biomes that they didn't show off in the game. So.
But then you need boats, and then it's going to turn into Valheim, where you have to like collect stuff and craft and fight sea serpents, and that's a whole separate game. Valheim Outriders DLC update. That's the play. So you play through Outriders, and then Valheim gets a DLC that allows you to become an Outrider in Valheim.
In Valheim, so now you become an altered in Valheim, and you can just ruin trees and everything in that game.
Yes,
Perfect.
Exactly. You can destroy all the trees. I'm good. That's it. That's my dream game.
It works. The connected, you get blessed by the gods in Valheim, right? And then you become a god. So I get it.
Oh goodness. All right. Well, I'm gonna plug our social media, because I've determined that this is my role in all things, is to be the sellout.
Yeah, that's what happens at the end of the podcast.
Yeah, but you know, I love to hear from people about, you know, what ridiculous theories or concepts. And so I got to say this: if Outriders and Valheim had a combo, and this is tickling your brain of what it would be, go ahead and tweet it at us so that we could imagine like what Outrider powers would be granted in Valheim. But you can do that by going to our many platforms, right? So you've got Pause Reviewed Pod, so POS Reviewed POD. There you go. Easy little end there. Twitter and Instagram, Positively Reviewed on YouTube. And then you're going to find the podcast on a lot of different of those podcast platforms by searching for Positively Reviewed, or going to Podbean, where you can find us there as well. So many sites. Whatever one you use, we're there. You're welcome. John did it, not me.
Yeah, and check out our first episode. If you're coming in on the second episode, I would highly recommend the Mortal Kombat episode. It turned out to be a good one. So, That's the first one we did. With that, next week, I think we had our 3 that was initially planned. So now we're going to hit our wall, and then we're going to be out of content after next week. So we'll go from there. We'll figure it out. Maybe. But I think we're going to do Falcon and the Winter Soldier next week. I think all the overhype has died down at this point, and now we're no longer hopping on the bandwagon and being overly positive about that show for some reasons. But I think that's what we're doing next. Anyways, though, if you guys enjoyed this episode, please, with Spotify, on iTunes, wherever you listen to this podcast, YouTube even, just like it, follow it, give it 12 out of 5 stars. Seriously, it helps a lot. It's the algorithms. Think of it, you're the hacker man for us. You get to hack our way into all the charts and become bigger than Joe Rogan and other people. So when we hit that point, which we obviously will, because we have very similar content,
Yep. Cool.
You'll be the reason why. You hacked us, and everyone likes being a hacker, man. So, but I hope you guys enjoyed this episode of Positively Reviewed. Man, I can't talk today. But on top of that, I hope you guys all enjoyed. You guys have a good rest of your week.